Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul Blackmer, and I am the newest addition to the Sips Kitchen team. Joey Sips makes wonderful, delicious meals for you. My job is to show you how to get those ingredients and use them for the meals. He's already got them chopped, he's got them ready, showing you how to cook up delicious things. I'm going to teach you a little bit about safety and sanitation in the kitchen when you're doing those things. Again, my name is Paul Blackmer. You can call me Uncle Paulie. If you have any questions throughout this video, you can post them in the comments below. Or if you could like us. That'd be fantastic. Or even subscribe to the channel. This will be posted on Sips Kitchen. Again, I'm delighted to be here. And I'd like to begin. Today, we're going to start with one of the most common items that you use in any recipe is the onion. At the same time, the onion can be difficult for somebody that's not used to cutting this particular vegetable. So I'm going to teach you the easiest and safest way to do that. So you've heard a lot of myths, a lot of things about onions. I'm going to dissolve those today, but the first and foremost, you need to have a safe environment to work in. I have my stone cutting board here. What you don't see is that underneath, I have a dampened towel. I put that underneath the cutting board, holds it in place, it keeps it from slipping around. I have a towel for wiping and cleaning, and I have 3 knives, because I'm going to be showing you how to cut an onion using 3 different knives commonly used in the house. Now, the most important part of your knife is how sharp it is. I know it sounds silly, but the sharper a knife is, the safer it is. Because when you're using a knife, you want your knife to cut straight through and go straight down without turning or twisting or having any kind of a shimmy. A super sharp knife is going to do that much easier than a dull knife. So what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to run my knife over my steel here. Now this will not sharpen your knife. The only way to sharpen your knife is either to do it professionally, use a stone, or some kind of knife sharpening tool. This simply takes, as you use your knife, you get little nicks and bends, and it makes the blade less straight, therefore making it less effective. This takes those little imperfections off the blade. And if you see this little bevel here, that's about the right angle. Draw it down, pull. Think about how hard you press a button on maybe like your door handle to lock your doors. That's about how hard you need to press. I'm not pressing hard, just enough to take those little imperfections off the blade. Keep it straight. Sometimes you can get little metal shavings on the blade, so I am going to take it. I'm going to wipe it off to make sure that I don't transfer any of that metal into the food that we're going to be cooking. I also have a serrated knife. I'm going to show you a little bit with that. And also, I don't know if there's a house in America that doesn't have this knife. Everyone recognizes this. Mom, grandma, everyone did all their paring with this one. So let's get started. Well, first and foremost, the number one thing you want to find when you're cutting anything round is a flat spot. Unfortunately, our flat spot is on the side that we need to cut off first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it on the side. We want to cut this end off first. We're going to leave the stem on. And the way you do that, because it rolls around, it rolls on you. I mean, there's a chance that it could roll away and it could hurt you. You take your fingernails and just kind of use those to hold it in place. Now, again, this is a home knife. This isn't a professional chef knife or anything like that. This is something that is a wedding gift. So, I mean, this isn't the best knife in the world. So, as most of you probably agree, you're in the same boat I am when it comes to knives. But if you use them properly, there's no danger. So, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to poke a hole in it. Simple little hole. Then, I'm going to get started with my cut. I'm going to cut the end off, making sure to roll all the way through and separate it from the onion. I'm going to discard that. And then if you could, just come this way with the camera. And then I'm going to peel off the outer skin. Now some onions can get goofy and the skin doesn't come off easily. And it's a pain in the butt. It takes a little bit longer than it should. But there is a little membrane on the inside. And if you can find it, you see how it's shiny? It makes taking the skin off much easier. But if you get one of those onions that's weird and it doesn't want to work with you, you can peel off a whole extra layer. Yes, you're going to be losing a little product, but you might be keeping some of your sanity if you're trying to cut down an onion real quick one day after work before everyone gets home and get dinner on the table. I'm gonna take all these, I'm gonna pull these off. Again, I'm gonna leave the stem on. So I've got my peeled onion. Just for one quick reference, if you're making a salad, you need onion rings. As you can see, there's a template. Same thing, they're a little bit harder. And the biggest part is keep your thumb back. And again, this isn't a super sharp knife, so sometimes you might have to drag it across. Cut straight down through. And you got your perfect salad rings. Well, we're doing dicing tonight. We're doing the hard stuff. So you're gonna find the flat spot, the most important. And you're gonna take your knife and you're gonna cut straight down through the center of the stem. So you're gonna have two sides. I'm gonna push them over here. Now I'm right-handed, okay? So you wanna work right to left because you don't want a pile of cut, uncut, cut, uncut. You want your uncut moving to your cut. So the first dice I'm gonna show you is the home dice. This is the one that I recommend for your home cooks that maybe don't have experience, professional or commercial food service experience cutting. And the reason why we keep that stem is because that stem's gonna hold everything together. Now, when you're holding your knife, it's very important that you take the correct grip. The correct grip is to first pinch right here. Hold these two and then get your fingers underneath it, and that creates the action. That's where you get all the action. Now, if you want to do that, you can. It's still keeping your fingers away from the blade, and some, as you're getting used to cutting, or maybe your knife isn't that sharp and you need a little extra torque, you can. You just don't want to hold it like this, because every time you go to cut, look what's going to happen with your knuckles. Your knuckles are going to hit, and you're not going to be able to get that action to cut all the way through. That's why your top two go on the blade, and the rest wrap around. You can see the edge of the blade is now beyond the tops of my knuckles, so they're not going to get in the way every cut. The way a knife, I know it sounds silly, but the way a knife works is that there is a curve here on the blade. And the curve is the point that makes the contact with the cutting board cutting through. So you want to use that curve to get through. If you look at the onion, if you can get in close to the onion here, the onion has a template. It's already drawn on there for you. See all those nice little lines on there? That's how you're going to dice your onion. So you're going to leave your stem on, and you're going to take your knife and you want to leave yourself a little bit of space and just follow that template, okay? Again, now an easy way to do that is to take your hand, I call it Tiger Claw Kung Fu, or you can use the fingernail. If you just take your fingernail and you put it on the food and you keep everything else back and your thumb back, there's no flesh for it to cut. So again, just follow the template of the knife. Or I'm sorry, follow the template that the onion provides you automatically. Now, again, maybe you don't have a chef knife. Maybe you don't feel comfortable with a chef knife. You can do the same thing. I mean, a paring knife works just as good. Remembering to keep all your fingers, and especially that thumb back. That's where you get it. You get that thumb back, and again, see, nothing. Keep that thumb back. Keep those other fingers back. And for those of you that are old school, and remember this one, the old grandma knife that everybody's family had. So as you can see, the stem holds everything together. And then from there, I went a little bit deep on that one. That's not a big deal. Let's save that. After that, you've got, and again, depending on your knife, you've already got them set up to be perfect dices. Go through quickly, keeping your thumb back, fingers in. And, something I never ever want to hear. I never want to hear that. You see it on movies where they're rifling through and they're making all kinds of noise. All they're doing is banging their blade against a cutting board and ruining their knife. You should never hear that sound when you're cutting. A blade cuts like this, not like this. It's not an axe. It's a knife. So again, keeping everything back. Now getting started, I can use that as a guide. Okay, now that's the hard part. Use it as a guide, but then again, you get everything back and away from the blade. Now these, You can save these. You can use them for soups, stocks, things like that. They add a lot of flavor if you don't feel like discarding it. But then if you look, you have perfectly nice diced onions. And if you're using a soup, it doesn't really matter how they look or what they look like, or if you're putting it in a stir fry. Things like, oh, sorry, I just did a big no-no. You don't want to drag your knife across the cutting board. If you're going to do that, use the other end and push it across. Don't drag your knife blade across the cutting board. See, I'm breaking my own rules here. So I'm doing